All right, and we're live.
Okay, wow, it's Tuesday again. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Happy Victoria Day. I am Renee, and I'm here with the Disability Foundation, and we're talking about cholesterol today. I am a registered dietitian in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I have been certified in the US as well as Canada and in Hong Kong. So I love cooking, I love food, and I love sharing nutritional information and recipes. So today we're going to be starting off with some slides and information about managing your cholesterol, and we're going to go and come back to my kitchen. I'm going to share with you some tips and some recipes and how to create some yummy snacks and breakfast foods. So let me start by sharing my screen, and we'll go ahead and play the slides. So managing cholesterols. Everybody has cholesterol, which is something that our body makes. And if you have any more questions after the session, you can also type in the chat and we can get back to you with the answers. Or if you have any questions after the presentation, you can always email me at info@truenosh.com or visit my website at truenosh.com. All right, so let's start off with why we're talking about cholesterol today. So high blood cholesterol is one of the major risks for coronary heart disease, heart attacks, and stroke. And once the blood cholesterol rises, so does the risk of heart disease. And it is important because it is the #1 killer for Canadians. And that's why we should all be aware of cholesterol. So what is it? So a lot of people are talking about their HDLs or LDLs, and a lot of people are very confused at what is good and what's bad and what they should be looking at when they get their blood test. But let's talk about what cholesterol is first. So it is actually a waxy substance, so it's a fatty substance found in your blood, and you actually need cholesterol to build healthy cells, and high levels of it can increase your risk, as I said before, of heart disease. And with high cholesterol, you can develop like these deposits in your blood vessels, but if you don't have enough, that's also a concern. But nowadays in society, we have definitely a lot of options that we can look at to help you manage your cholesterol. As I said before, your cholesterol in your body is used to make your cell membranes. Vitamin D is also produced from cholesterol, and some hormones that your body makes is also made from cholesterol. It is found in your blood, and there's 2 types. So HDL, a lot of people are saying that that is the good type of cholesterol, and it is high density cholesterol, which means it's like packeted into smaller, denser packets. And then there's a low density LDL, which are like larger globules, and they're lighter in weight. So that's usually considered the bad type of cholesterol because it forms deposit or plaque in your artery and blocks the heart so it doesn't break the heart, but it blocks the blood flow when the heart pumps the blood through your blood vessels, and that's not good, especially when you already have high blood pressure. And that this cholesterol can cause high blood pressure because it actually narrows the amount of room that your blood can flow through, and that can cause some blockages for the blood flow to go through your heart and to your brain and come back full circle, and can cause circulation problems in your body. So we actually, in ourselves, we actually make our own cholesterol, so it's not really necessary to eat it in our diet. But there are definitely dietary cholesterols that we eat on a normal basis. So those who eat a mixed diet, foods that have cholesterol can be found in meat, poultry, eggs, some dairy products like milk, cheese, and cream, and also things that have some saturated fats in it, especially those that are eating a lot of processed foods or fatty meats that have a lot of fat content, some lard and butter. Well, lard and butter also has saturated fat and can cause high cholesterol levels in your blood. Trans fat, it also is a health factor. I mean, a lot of people are now knowing the bad effects of trans fat, and food products are trying to eliminate trans fat. But you can find trans fat in margarines that are, and those are oils that are plant-based, but that has gone through a process of hydrogenation, where they blast hydrogen molecules in these fat molecules, and they become solid in a room temperature. And that is not actually a healthy process, but it is a process that a lot of food companies use to make their fat more spreadable and can help them last longer on the shelves. So deep fried foods like chips and fries and fried chicken, those also are foods that you should consider that have some more cholesterol in them. And then commercial baked products, because a lot of them use vegetable shortenings, which is technically just a hydrogenated fat that can also have a lot of trans fats in it. And what I said before, this is a picture that you can find in the Heart and Stroke Foundation, and what the plaque in the artery causes is a blockage. And with the blockage actually increases your blood pressure, and therefore there could be some clots formed in that area where the cholesterol deposits have landed in your blood vessels, and that can cause a heart attack or a stroke. So some steps you can take to manage your cholesterol and to kind of know what your body is at. Check nutrition facts label also is very important. We talked about that last week with sodium, but now we're going to talk about cholesterol, some saturated fat, trans fat, and sodium kind of go together with managing your health as well as your cholesterol levels. Adapt a healthy, active lifestyle. Doing some physical activity can help that blood flow go and kind of help the cholesterol deposits decrease in your blood. And get a regular blood test. So, you know, it's suggested to get tested regularly if you're a male over 40 or a female over 50 and or postmenopausal. If you have family history with diabetes, heart disease, or high blood pressure, you should also get blood tests regularly, about once a year, to see where your body's at, and just a normal body check. Usually you'll have a cholesterol tested, right? And then waist circumference is also correlated with heart diseases and the amount of cholesterol in your body. So those who are male, if your waist is larger than 37 inches, and for females larger than 31.5 inches, those you know, people should get also their blood tested regularly for cholesterol. And if you smoke or have smoked in the last year, and some forms of erectile dysfunction. So those in the Canadian guidelines, they recommend you to go get your blood tested for cholesterol levels regularly. And for test results, so what measurements to look for when you get that lab report from your doctor? Well, nowadays, if you have nothing wrong, they won't really come and knock on your door and call you. Usually when you have an excessive high number, then your doctors get that alert, and they will ask you to come in and talk about your options. So in your blood panel, you'll see HDL cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, non-HDL cholesterol, and then also triglycerides. And those are all the items that you should actually keep in mind to look at and compare the numbers. So, you know, how do I know if I have high levels of blood cholesterol? Well, simple measurements, okay, that you can see I have written here. Your total less cholesterol should be under 5.2 millimoles. It is ideal, and more than 6.2 is considered a little bit on the high side, okay? So HDL cholesterol, the more you have is actually better. So you want to kind of reach that 0.9. And then for the bad cholesterol, which is LDL, you should have less than 3.5, which is considered ideal. And if you have more than 4, it's considered high. And when those numbers reach that high level, doctors might suggest you adapting to different things that you can do with your diet as well as your physical activity. And also they might recommend medications like a statin to help you lower that cholesterol. So, I mean, as a dietitian, I love for you to choose your health. So see, these are some things that you can do in your daily life to help you minimize the ingestion of cholesterol and to kind of help your body excrete it. So choosing a variety of whole and minimally processed foods at meals is very important, meaning not choosing packaged meals, and have meals that are with, like, in your ingredient list is the back of the package. Have as few ingredients as possible so you know that you're having like whole foods as much as possible, right? And when you're eating, fill your plate. Half your plate should be about vegetables and fruit. And as snacks, instead of going to like the chip aisle or the cracker aisle, try to pick up some vegetables like carrot sticks or fruits as snacks. And if you can't buy fresh fruits or vegetables, I know some people have limited options in finding fresh. You can always go for frozen or canned fruits and vegetables that have no syrups in it and minimal preservatives, right? And you want them to be plain, as I said, so no syrup, sugar, or salt added to decrease the amount of sodium or sugar levels in that frozen or canned fruits and vegetables. So whole grains. So whole grains are also important to add to your meals. So what I'm talking about is like look for breads that have the word whole grain in it, meaning they have, a lot of fiber and protein. If you don't have the whole grains, try to stay away from like white rice and white flour. Those have minimal or less than or even like none of the fibers and protein that is usually in the whole grains. So the less processed the food is, the more whole it is, right? So barleys and oats are considered whole grain. Quinoa, as I made them, I think our very first session, and brown rice and bulgur and farro. So go into the grain section, choose the bag that says whole grain, and find something like bulgur or farro that you've never cooked before, and you can always Google a recipe online and try to experiment in the kitchen and make it yourself, right? So yeah, mix up the center of the plate. So some vegetable options such as beans, lentils, tofu, and nuts can be added. And when you buy meat, make sure that you read the word lean. The poultry, when you cook it, try to remove the skin and all the fats before you do so. And if you do like meat and poultry, try to minimalize that amount and make it more of a fish ordeal at home instead of buying like red meat and poultry and pork. So fish is a little bit, actually way more healthier than a lot of those meat items. And you can eat that a couple times a week. So instead of drinking, things that have high fat or a lot of sugary drinks, choose water and that are like lower in fat, just plain milk, to kind of calm down your thirst. And as I said, avoid sugary drinks, which includes a lot of soft drinks and sports drinks. So make sure you read your label. And anything that is sweetened also, right? And that does include fruit juice. So fruit juice is quite sugary, and those things that you kind of need to avoid in your daily life, okay? Because sugar intake has been linked to higher triglyceride levels, and that means like the blood has more fatty and it's circulating around that can cause that can cause your blood vessels to narrow down because they deposit in those blood vessels. So once again, the nutrition facts table is your friend when you're going out to shop. And a lot of people are like, oh, if I eat plant-based, there's no cholesterol in it. Well, it's true because only animals and animal products have cholesterol in it, but that doesn't mean that just avoiding animal products can lead to a decrease in cholesterol in your blood. As I said, foods with high saturated fats and trans fats that have been fried and hydrogenated can cause a higher level of lipids in your blood, and therefore can cause high cholesterol in your blood. So that's also something that you need to look at the nutrition facts table. And then one more thing that I urge you to look at in the nutrition facts table is dietary fiber. So you want this number to be as high as possible. So it's recommended to be about 3 to 4 grams per serving. And for one whole day, you should aim to have at least 25 grams of dietary fiber. And if you surpass that, even better. So high fiber is always good in a food product, okay? Yeah, so fiber, there's actually 2 types of fiber that is in foods, and usually they're mixed up. So in fruits and vegetables, there's both present. Also in whole grains, both of these fibers are present. And it's known as roughage or bulk, and you actually don't digest it or absorb it, which is great because it can help your digestive system flow, and it can actually prevent you from absorbing too much sugar or carbs, so then you don't actually you don't actually absorb a lot of calories when you eat a lot of fiber. So insoluble fiber, so this is the fiber that helps the movement in your digestive system, right? So it decreases constipation. So this is something that you would want in your diet. And as I said before, like whole wheat, whole grains, vegetables like cauliflower, beans, and potatoes with the skin on it are sources of insoluble fiber. So things that are fibrous, right? And then there's the other source of fiber, which is the soluble fiber, which we're going to use also in our cooking demo later. And that actually dissolves in water and actually becomes sort of like a gel-like substance. And this is known to help you lower your blood cholesterol and even glucose levels. So this is like a double, kill 2 birds with 1 stone kind of fiber. So this is something that you can look for. And it's definitely easy to find. So if you like oats, peas, beans, some apples and citrus fruits have soluble fiber, as well as carrots, barley, and psyllium. So psyllium is something new, and people have been experimenting with it. They make psyllium pills you can eat. Powder also you can use to cook with or mix into your smoothies or drinks. I'm also going to use it to make a sauce or a gravy today for you. And it is known to decrease the absorption of cholesterol in your bloodstream. And with 5 to 10 grams of soluble fiber a day actually decreases your cholesterol, and especially the LDL or the bad cholesterol, right? So 1 serving of breakfast cereal with oatmeal, which is like a high fiber food, or oat bran, contains about 3 to 4 grams of fiber, and also about a slice of whole grain bread can also contain about the same amount of fiber. Okay. And some things are also important to know is understand what plant sterols are, right? So they are in most fruits and vegetables, which is why that fruits and vegetables are definitely something that you need to incorporate in your daily habits when you're cooking or snacking. So they're always in a small amount in your vegetable oils or nuts, whole grains, vegetables, or fruit. And so as long as you eat a mix of these plant-based foods, you can get about 2 grams of plant sterol a day, which can lower also the bad type of cholesterol, which is your LDL cholesterol. Okay, so a lot of times you might not be able to get enough of those. So you are allowed to have up to 1 gram of plant serving added to them. So a lot of foods like condiments, like mayonnaise and margarine and salad dressings have that added amount of plant STEROLS. So you can actually look and see if it's fortified with this STEROLS, and that's something that you can add to your grocery basket when you can have time to go some grocery shopping too. Okay, do we have any questions yet? Nope. All right, feel free to write them in the comment section or the chat section, and I will go on if there's no questions or comments. So, and another thing, so fats. So not all fats are bad. We need fats for sure, and there are definitely options that you can look for that are a better fat to eat. So we need them for energy, which is, you know, a form of calories that we need to help, you know, with our daily activities. Fat is very important. But also, as I said, I don't know if you guys remember my very first section or session with you, and I talked about some vitamins that need fat to be absorbed, and those are A, D, E, and K. And without fat, you won't have enough of these vitamins. So there are also a lot of different types of fat. As I said, the bad ones, which are saturated and trans fat. Now we're going to talk about some of the ones that you can eat in moderation. Why I say moderation is because, I mean, there is quite a lot of calories in fat too. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So you don't really want to go crazy and eating all the type of fats, but it is something that you have to have in your diet to make you healthy and happy. So one, I guess, kind of fat is called polyunsaturated fat, and those are your omega-3s and 6s, which have kinks in the molecules. At the omega-3, which is what the third omega of the train, which is super scientific right now. We don't really need to know that, but we need to know what sources of food have those omega-3s and 6s, which are fish, right? Salmon has been known to be marketed a lot to say that they have a lot of omega-3s, which is true. And then sardines, mackerel, herring, and trout can be added into that family of fish that you should eat a lot more of versus other ones. And then beans, legumes, flax seeds, and oils such as sunflower and soy oils have omega-3s and 6s in them. And then another one, which is monounsaturated fats. So these both are fats that are going to be more liquidy and not hard in room temperature. So these are called monounsaturated fats because they have only one kink in them, and I meant kink meaning in the molecule structure. And these are plant oils, and therefore, they will be liquid in room temperature. And some examples are olive oil, safflower oil, sesame oil, and avocado, and then some nuts and seeds. And also the butters that you make from these nuts and seeds have monounsaturated fats in them, and also avocados, which everybody love already, right? And then another thing that you can do is definitely exercise. So I'm not talking about like strenuous activity when you have been diagnosed with heart disease already. So something that you can do constantly and that you feel comfortable doing, as long as you're moving and helping that blood flow. You're actually exercising your blood vessels to help them pump blood and keep that elasticity working, or else it's going to harden, and then it's easier for these fatty deposits to deposit in your blood vessels and cause some sort of rupture, and therefore a stroke or a heart attack can happen, right? So some activities that are easy for older generation to do is like speed walking a little bit faster, or just slow swimming. You can even garden as a form of physical activity, but walking is great. And if you can find a group that you can walk with, and now it's a little bit hard because of social distancing, but the weather is getting a little bit nicer, so try to find some neighborhoods that are easy to walk and challenge yourself by speeding up a little bit and then slowing down and speeding up again so you don't get bored when you're walking, okay? And try to aim to have at least 150 minutes a week, which is less than 25 minutes a day. And it shouldn't be that hard if you actually put it in your calendar, okay? And we're gonna go on. So this is my last slide before we are gonna go on and talk about some options that we can take in the kitchen. And this is quite important, actually. I want to stress this because it is good to be mindful of this always when you go and eat out or cook or go grocery shopping. It is important to not focus on just one nutrient, right? So it is your whole and overall diet that will make the biggest change and impact to your health, right? And then one good example is to not focus on just finding things that are labeled with low fat, right? Because some of these low fat items, sorry, I need a drink, can also be highly processed. So low fat is not always good. And it can also contain lots of refined carbs like sugars or syrups or preservatives, right? And then it could also have a lot of calories and then also could have a lot of salt in it, right? So you want to look at the overall label and see if you feel good about buying this item. And some sources that I've added into my last slide is you can go and visit the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Health Canada is a great informational website. And then, you know, some scientific and organizations such as the Mayo Clinic can also provide a lot of insight about cholesterol and your overall health. Okay. So let's get back to the original screen so you guys can see me fully. And then we can go back to my kitchen. Okay, so let's go here. And hopefully you guys can see what I'm making and see all my ingredients here. All right, let me know if anybody has any problems watching, and I will tighten my apron and we can go and make some yummy food. Okay, so what we can do, I'm actually going to do 3 different things with you today. We're actually going to make a red lentil hummus, which is a super high protein and high fiber snack that you can use as a dip or spread on bread. Eating it with carrots and celery is wonderful. And lentils are a food that you can find super easily in the bulk section or the dried goods section, and they're not expensive. So one whole like 2 kilogram bag, I probably spend about $5, and they last such a long time in a nice container, and you store it in a dry area. It can be really good to substitute as rice or mashed potatoes. And I have some on a skillet right now. I just washed them, so make sure you wash them when you bring it home, and you don't need to soak them or anything. A lot of people are afraid of cooking lentils because they actually think it's going to take so long to cook lentils. But lentils are actually the easiest thing to cook, and they actually cook a lot faster than rice, if you can believe it, right? So I have a skillet back here. It is a little bit wet with the water that I used to wash it with. I'm going to add a little bit of my grapeseed oil on, and then I'm just going to let it heat up and toast a little bit. So let me get a wooden spoon, and we're just going to saute it a little bit. Okay, just have it toast up. Go. Okay, my stove is a little finicky. Great. So it's already kind of changing colors, and that's good. You're knowing that it's cooking already. And then in the meantime, while it's kind of toasting, I like to toast it a little bit before I add some shallots. So these are shallots that I bought. These are a little bit smaller than onions, well actually significantly smaller than onions. So it's great to just have around, and you can use one shallot at a time. When you're cooking, you don't have to worry about covering a big onion, right? So I'm just rough chopping some shallots to add to that red lentils. And this is a good option if you don't like chickpeas. Not that a lot of people don't like chickpeas, but you know, you just want some variation in your dips. So it can be, you can even add it to chickpeas to make a chickpea and red lentil hummus, or just use red lentils as the base for a red lentil hummus, right? So I'm adding the shallots in here, and then I'm slowly stirring it. And we're just cooking these shallots until it gets translucent. All right, so I'm gonna let it cook, and then I'm gonna bring the camera closer to the pot. When it's turned translucent, then we can just add some water. You can add vegetable stock, you can add chicken stock to just add some seasoning to it, right, or flavoring, right, and therefore you can lower your sodium by adding some stock that has some flavor. Okay, but today actually we're not going to use any salt at all, and I'm sure you've noticed by now this is my third session with the Disability Foundation. I love using nutritional yeast because it has a lot of B12, and I'm actually a vegetarian at home, and I don't eat meat at home, but when I go out, that's when I sort of splurge and order some meat dishes. And then when I do some cooking classes that have meat, then I would buy meat then. But so vitamin B12s are quite important in your sustaining a healthy life. So I will use this as a seasoning, and it also will be give it a little bit of a cheesy flavor too, right? Okay, so now the shallots actually have gotten translucent, and this is when I will pour my stock or water into the pan. So I'm going to bring you guys closer, and you can see what this looks like. It's pretty yummy already, and if you don't let it cook until it turns into mush, you can actually just use it as a side dish or as your rice substitute, right? Okay, so now I'm just going to pour some water in it. And it's going to cook for about 10 minutes. And you're going to notice that you don't really need to wash it too much. Just constantly, you know, every 5 minutes, give it a good stir, and it should cook up really, really quick and nicely. And then when it kind of turns really soft, then you can add a tablespoon of nutritional yeast. So I have a cup of lentils in there only, and then I poured in just enough water to kind of cover all the lentils, and then I will add a tablespoon of nutritional yeast and some garlic powder, and that's it, really. So that's pretty easy, right? And then another thing for you to do is when you're trying to think of a sauce at home and you don't know what to do and you don't have that many ingredients. And what I have at home is I have like a pretty large bag of psyllium husk, and you can find this in Save on Food or any type of grocery store that has an aisle with a lot of items. Usually it's the whole grain aisle with Bob's Red Mill has a psyllium husk powder. Also a local company called West Point has a psyllium husk powder. Just your local grocery store should now carry psyllium husk, which is not as hard to find anymore. And you can also find it online. So if you go online shopping, just type in psyllium husk, which is P-S-Y-L-L-I-M, And that's your really good source of soluble fiber. And what we're gonna do today is make a really easy gravy by using it like I would do if I were to make a slurry with flour or cornstarch, right? And you don't need too much of it either because it absorbs so much liquid that you don't need too much of it. So right now, this pot was going to be for my other thing. I have some mushrooms also for my gravy. I'm going to add about a tablespoon to my bowl, and I'm also going to use some water, just like I would do cornstarch or flour to make a slurry. And you'll see that once you add water, it's already starting to thicken, okay? All right, so you want to add cold water to it so it doesn't turn lumpy. And then when you're going to make your gravy, I'm going to turn this guy a little bit lower. You're going to make your gravy by adding a little bit more shallots into the bottom. If you don't have shallots or onions, you can actually just use some garlic powder or onion powder. I'm going to add about half a shallot, which is about a little bit more than a teaspoon of shallot. And we're going to cut them really small so you don't like you know, working on your knife skills, just rough chop. We're only feeding ourselves usually now. And you can cut them nicely when we can have some more company joining us, right? Okay, so like a small dice, about 1/4 centimeters rough chop. And this can start off your gravy base with a little bit of oil. Okay. And then I like to add mushrooms to my sauces and gravies. You don't have to do this, but mushrooms are great and adds a lot of flavor. So once again, I'm going to rough chop the mushrooms into small chunks. And I'm going to put that in my pot to make my sauce. And as I do that, I see my psyllium turning into a gel already, which is exciting. I have about 3 small cremini mushrooms here. You can use any type of mushrooms. Oyster mushrooms are great, enoki are fine. So even button mushrooms are also yummy. So don't worry if you don't have a certain type of mushrooms. But they definitely add a lot of umami and flavor into your sauces and gravies. So don't hesitate to try a new mushroom out, right? Okay. So be careful to watch your fingers. I know sometimes cooking is super exciting, but always curl your fingers underneath and you won't chop off your fingertips by doing that. And I really appreciate a nice knife also that fits in your hand so you don't have to do much work. Okay, so some rough chopped mushrooms like this also go into my gravy or sauce pot. Okay, and then we're just gonna put it over the heat and let it cook with a little bit of oil. And as I said before, you know, you can buy avocado oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, sesame oil. It's great. So I'm going to turn off my lentils. They're actually cooked already. Can you imagine how fast that was? I mean, that was like less than 10 minutes. I'm going to let it cool a little bit. And as you toss it around or stir it with your wooden spoon, it actually already turns into mush, and you don't need a blender to blend it up. So I'm going to bring you again closer to my pot or pan, and then you can see what's happened to my lentils. And then you just kind of mush it with your utensil that you're using to stir it around.
And as you can see, it just kind of turns into mush super easy. You don't actually even need a blender to make it into a dip. So this is why I love lentils so much, okay? I'm gonna let it cool down before I add my seasoning. This is actually a cool dip that we're using, right, or that we're making. All right, so our mushrooms and our shallots are very flavorful now. I can smell it throughout my kitchen. All right, so then once it gets toasty, that's when you're going to add some water to let it cook. I'm going to add about 2 cups of water. Okay, and then I'm just going to wait for it to boil. And then at this time, you can add a little bit of nutritional yeast into your gravy, as well as garlic powder. So these are kind of staples in my kitchen: garlic powder and nutritional yeast, right? Okay, so we're going to just let that boil. We're letting the lentils cool down before we stir our magic ingredients in. And then now we're going to teach you how to make a chia seed pudding. So chia seeds are in the same family as like basil seeds. These are like a superfood. I kind of don't like the word superfood, but it's got a lot of nutrients in it. It's got a lot of protein, a lot of fiber, and when you toast them, it tastes great. So, and also it's got iron and calcium in it as well. So what I'm going to do is I grabbed a 1/3 cup of chia seeds into a bowl, and you can choose whatever type of milk you like. And I've been in love with some oat milk lately, but if you drink regular milk, go ahead and use that, or coconut milk gives it a really nice coconutty flavor. And if you like to have a little bit of sweetness in it, you can blend some apples with your milk, or some pear with your milk, or even some dates with your milk to kind of give it a sweetness. But this is what I use, or instead of yogurt in my morning granola. All right, so you can just add about 3 times of milk to the amount of chia seeds you have in your pot, and then just kind of whisk it nicely in here. And then some people who are vegan and don't like or allergic to eat eggs, or don't eat like eggs, this chia seeds can be used as an egg substitute when you're baking as well. So the chia seeds absorb about like 300 times their body weight of water, and therefore they hold a lot of moisture. And you can just leave this in the fridge or out for about 30 minutes, and it should thicken super nicely, and it turns into a nice pudding. And you can use it instead of yogurt, right? So that's something that you can do at home using your overnight oats recipe, as well as making a nice salad dressing, and you don't even have to add anything else really into it. So if you're going to do a salad dressing, the chia seeds will, go into your olive oil and vinegar, and then just kind of use as a dressing on top of whatever mixed greens you have. Okay, so let me check on my gravy over here, and I'm just going to rinse off my whisk. And then the psyllium husk, I put about 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk to about 1/2 cup of water, and I whisked it well. And right now it actually looks like a gel, which is kind of crazy how fast that gels, right? We're going to use that as the base for our gravy once the water has boiled in our mushroom and shallot mixture with some nutritional yeast and garlic powder. And once again, to lower your sodium intake, I don't really like to add too much salt, and it's more about the freshness of your foods that you buy, right? The fresher the fruits and vegetables or the fish or the chicken usually has a lot more flavor, and you don't need to add that much salt, right? I will add a little bit of pepper to give it a little bit of a kick. So I'm just going to ground in some fresh pepper there. And then now you can see that my water has been boiling. Okay, right there with all the mushroom and the shallots. And now we're gonna add in the psyllium husk. So have a whisk on hand when you do that, because you want to do that with a whisk, and you can turn the heat down to about medium so you don't really hurt yourself. And then slowly get in your psyllium, and then you're just going to whisk that in slowly. And you're going to use the whisk to help it break up, okay? Okay, so as you can see, it's already gotten thicker, right? And then now you can use this on your any fish sauce. I'm going to turn it a little bit higher to help it melt into the sauce a little bit more. You might want to use a bigger pot, like about double the size, so then when you're stirring it doesn't go over. But you need about this amount of liquid for 1 tablespoon of psyllium, okay? So let it dissolve slowly. Turn the heat back on to help the psyllium absorb. And then now you can throw this in a blender, because when you are actually putting it in the fridge, so this is actually stuck into my whisk, as you can see the psyllium is so jelly that it doesn't like to let go. Okay, so after it boils down, and then you can see that it's become a nice gravy like this. Now you can actually use it over top any poultry or steak or fish that needs a sauce on. And you can store it in your fridge for a few days, and then you just have to heat it back up when you're using it on any dish, okay? So let's go back to the lentils. It's already cooled down. And we're gonna get a nice bowl after we mix in the nutritional yeast and the garlic powder. So a little dash of garlic powder goes a long way. So I'm just gonna put about 1 teaspoon worth of it. And then also a good crack of pepper. And then using my hand as a measurement, about 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. And then now is a good time to add your healthy oils, right? So, I mean, I always use some grapeseed oil. If you have olive oil, like a higher grade one, because it's eaten cold and we're not cooking the olive oil, you can kind of drizzle a little bit on this olive oil into your lentil mix, and a dash of sesame oil also brings out a really nice aroma. I love the smell of sesame oil. Okay, and then here's your red lentil dip. And if you like it a little bit more liquidy, go ahead and add a little bit of water. And then now you can get, you know, your carrot sticks or your celery sticks and use this like you would in a hummus. And if you have your favorite type of hot sauce, I make 4 different types of hot sauce at True Nosh. You can drizzle hot sauce in there to make it a spicy dip. Okay, so I'm gonna get a nice bowl for this dip, and we're just going to put it in a bowl and let it cool down before you use it as a dip. Or you can serve it as a warm dip also, if you want to. Okay, and if you like to garnish it with extra cracked pepper or a nice green mint or basil leaf, which I have here, and I'm going to do that. My dip. There we go. It's our nice and red lentil dip here. We're just going to check on our chia seed pudding. This already has thickened just a little bit, but it takes about half an hour to thicken. So let's check this out. Give it a good stir. Make sure the liquid is dispersed inside. And this pudding will form in about less than an hour. So 30 minutes should be a good time for it, but I can already feel the bottom is a lot thicker. And the more time you give it, the thicker it'll get. And then you can add any type of coloring on it. If you like green tea powder, you like turmeric powder, you can make different colors of chia seed pudding, and then, you know, sprinkle on your favorite low sugar cereal or granola, and there we have it. So we have 3 things that we made today, which is a psyllium husk gravy, a red lentil dip or spread, and then we have some chia seed pudding here. And ta-da! And that is how you can incorporate fiber into your diet and help you manage your cholesterol, and pair that with some light physical activity, at least 25 minutes a day. And we're gonna live happier and healthy lives together. Okay? Let me see if there's any questions.
We do have some questions. Would you like me to read them for you?
Sure.
All right, so Abby asks, what's the name of the seasonings that you've been using again, and where can you buy them?
Yeah, so I use what you call psyllium husk and garlic powder. So, I mean, you can buy them at any grocery store. So psyllium husk you can buy in the bulk section, or Bob's Red Mill makes a really nice packet of nutritional yeast. I was at No Frills last week, and they also have a generic President's Choice brand now of what is it, nutritional yeast. And you can always order it online as well on like well.ca or some website similar to that, and you can just have it delivered to your door. And then I also have powdered garlic. So this also you can find anywhere, and make sure it's just garlic powder and not garlic salt, because garlic salt has salt in it, and you would like to make sure that it's not salt with garlic powder, and it's just garlic powder yourself. Okay?
We have time for one more question.
Okay.
So Karina says, hi Renee, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I have a question about cooking oil. For students like me, it's challenging to afford olive oil long term. Is there any low budget and healthy alternative you would recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any vegetable oil for sure. Just go ahead and use it, because it is a way healthier option than shortening than margarine, right? So vegetable oil is probably the cheapest form, and it's a combination of oils that are polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. Yeah, and then peanut oil is great too, as long as you don't have a peanut allergy.
All right, that's all the time we have today. There's a couple more questions, but I can send those to you privately, and you can email the answers if you'd like.
Yeah, I can definitely email you guys the answers if I get the questions. For sure. All right, well, thanks for, you know,
spending some time with me, and we'll see you next week, and we'll talk about vitamin D actually next week. So I'm very excited about that topic because it's really close to summer and we can go out and do a lot of outdoor activities.